Hey everybody, Ram Dean and Blackwood here, chatting about UFC 211 going down on May 13th in Dallas, Texas. A cool fight, 145 pounds, and I'll tell you, man, I was a non-believer. Not that I was a non-believer. I was on the fence because you just never know. You never know when a fighter's going to turn the corner and blossom into the athlete that everybody says they're going to be. Because, for example, I'm not picking on this guy, but Chris Weidman, for years and years and years, he talked up John Vellante as this guy should be the light heavyweight champion of the world. And we love John Vellante, but we just have not seen the type of performance from John Vellante that Chris Weidman has been talking about. Now, I'm hoping to see it.
It
could happen.
I bet it will.
So we're waiting for those things to happen. So Yair Rodriguez, nobody's ever made BJ Penn look like that before. Frankie did. But I mean,
maybe that's why these guys are.
Sure. So Frankie did, and I think that's one of the reasons why Frankie is revered, is because he did what he did to BJ Penn, in addition to faced.
We're okay with Frankie doing it.
Yeah,
somehow.
We're okay.
Unless
Frankie's proved himself.
Yeah.
Frankie's proved himself to be literally one of you. Okay, guys, we're going to create an MMA all-star team.
Put Frankie one of the first few.
We got to pick each division. A couple guys from each division. Of course, Frankie Edgar is going to be there. 155-pound champion, and he's faced the best fighters in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you look at, and great performances all the time. So, for him to do that against BJ Penn, we can accept it. It was hurtful. I was hurt by that, but I love Frankie Edgar, so we'll allow that. Yair Rodriguez, I just felt he hasn't done enough to be able to kick BJ Penn's ass like that.
Well,
you know what I mean? And these are
this is the enough now.
This is the enough.
Or is it? So, okay, here's what's going to happen. Frankie Edgar is going to win by rear naked choke. And I rarely say things like that, and I put a disclaimer on that saying that we really don't know what we're talking about when we make predictions. Said, hey, Robin picked Holly Holm to finish Ronda Rousey. Yeah, but I also, there was something obvious. There's a lot. I mean, the truth is there a likelihood that Frankie Edgar can win this fight by submission, rear naked choke, or beating him up from the mount? Of course there is. There's a good likelihood. But all kinds of crazy stuff happens. To do that, you have to pass through this area where this guy is kicking at your head. And he's very long, and he's very big at this weight. And your head is there, and his foot is in the shin. That happens. But the most likely scenario for this fight is Frankie Edgar by rear naked choke or beating him up from the mount. Because Frankie knows exactly how to win this fight. And there's one other thing I would ask you to humor me, and that is, put everything you know about the fight with BJ Penn out of your mind.
Sure, yeah.
And take round one. And stop it at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's how you beat this guy. BJ, and I know that our memories trick ourselves. When I ask you how many windows were on the front of your childhood home, your mind creates that. Do you know how many windows were on the front of your childhood home? But your mind has a picture of it. I'm
sure, yeah.
Because you fill in the blanks. That's what memory is. It's a very tricky thing, right? And so your memory is BJ Penn just got shit kicked. And BJ Penn did get shit kicked. But you look at the 2 minutes and 20 seconds of that first round, that's how you beat this guy. Frankie will execute that even better. Frankie, with his pure wrestling, will take down any long, lanky, talented hotshot. And when he does, look what he was able to do, dominating Cub Swanson from the top position. A super athletic, brilliantly talented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So, he's going to do that to you unless you knock him out by kicking him in the head in the first half of the first round, or survive that and knock him out by kicking him in the head in the first half of the second round. Otherwise, Frankie Edgar wins by rear naked choke, beating him up from the mount or decision.
We know that Yair Rodriguez been spending time living and training in Chicago. During all that time in his preparations for BJ Penn, and before that, making that move to the Midwest to get excellent wrestling. For him to be able to play his specific game, he's even more evolved than the last time we saw him inside of the cage. So how does he ensure that it's all about that game of his?
Moving his feet and being never straight back and rarely straightforward.
And can he do that? Do you believe against Frankie?
It's possible for sure. I would be shocked if he were capable of winning a decision. I'd be shocked. But I would not be shocked for him to kick Frankie in the head or land something as Frankie comes in, a knee or something, and either win by finish
comes in.
or get a choke on a really injured guy. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't. But I'd be shocked for him to outpoint Frankie Edgar. I just don't see it happening. You got to be near perfect. Never straightforward and... never straight back and rarely straightforward. And even then, Frankie created the footwork game that we go back. Frankie Edgar versus Sean Sherk. You know, that was the sort of beginning of bringing the entry stepping off the line, moving your head as you enter, damaging, move your head as you exit, and pivot off. That's really the beginning of that in mixed martial arts. He literally wrote the book on this. So I don't think you're going to out-footwork Frankie Edgar. All he's got to do, Frankie, go back and watch your Sean Sherk fight. I don't know how many times you've seen it, but what year was that? Yeah. Mark, see if you can pull that up. If you can, the year that Frankie Edgar, I remember talking to him about it, and he was shocked that we even sort of knew that was the first time that he and Mark Henry and their team had tried to implement that, but they'd been building that game of off the line to enter, strike, move the head, off the line to exit. 2009.
That's insane.
Frankie Edgar wrote the book on this. So you're not going to out-footwork Frankie
Let me ask a question. So it's interesting you bring up Mark Henry because, you know, coaching seems to be, you know, such an integral part of mixed martial arts success. What has, if anything, has Mark Henry learned in those fights with Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor and Frankie and Jose Aldo to get him to maybe think outside of the box and improve, to give his athletes better tools? Because we, you know, in addition to Frankie being on this card, Eddie Alvarez is also on this card.
We'll talk about that in another chunk. We love Eddie Alvarez. Well, you're going to lose some fights, and the proof, Mark Henry is a proven combat great. Brilliant mind. And so, hey, Conor McGregor is the best fighter in the world. And not a lot of people don't want to hear it. Eddie didn't want to hear it. Mark didn't want to hear it. What other choice did he have? Eddie, this guy is really good. He's going to murder us. You gotta go in with the belief, but McGregor is real. That's real. Santa Claus does exist. I'm sorry, Ed. You know, we love you, man. But that's real. That's a real thing. That's a real guy. That's a real, you know.
I think everybody's a believer now.
If you aren't highly educated on fighting and you just want to denounce this, if you want to hear whether it's us or somebody with expertise, high-level coaches, you want to dismiss Faraz, you want to dismiss Rogan, you want to dismiss any of these people and say, although those people have dedicated a life, Dan Hardy, dedicated their lifetime to studying fighting, and they tell me McGregor is brilliant, I will not accept it. Those guys are stupid. You can do that if you like, you can. But so that happened, and then, but Mark, I loved that he took full responsibility for the Aldo thing, because if you take full responsibility, you will learn, you will analyze what you did, and what happened in that one was Jose Aldo is also brilliant. That was true brilliance, to be capable of being such a different fighter when you've been winning in ways that became predictable, and then people were like, I know what Jose Aldo is going to do to me. Oh shit, I can't stop it. That's beautiful in its own right. But they then were like, we know what Jose Aldo is going to do. And Jose Aldo didn't do it. He did the opposite. He moved back. He fought Frankie the way that Conor fought him in those short seconds. And that was brilliant. And Mark and Frankie fully know that fighters are capable of drastic change, but to see it and experience it in real time and be beaten because of it for a title will just reinforce that they too can change whenever they like. And we'll never have seen a better Frankie Edgar, as long as his body's all right. We'll never have seen a better Frankie Edgar than we're going to see in Dallas.
Oh, a tremendous bout. Yair Rodriguez, is he the future?
I know we're wrapping up, but I think it just occurs to me as we're talking, we're looking at Frankie Edgar. We didn't really talk about what it is about Yair Rodriguez that is special.
Yeah.
We were briefly butthurt because he beat our guy BJ. Then we talked about how spectacular Frankie is and how to beat this guy. But we'd be remiss
Yes, you're right,
if
you're
we
right.
didn't talk about why he is unique.
You're fun to watch, kid.
Yes,
It's 100%.
Yeah, he is. He's also, it takes a certain amount of real extreme self-belief to throw kicks, punches, movement, and mix it up that way. And
He just signed to fight BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar. His balls are massive.
And it's because of that when we acknowledge he could kick him in the head and knock him out, and that's real. If he does, it isn't. You look at some of these guys, and we tend to just parrot what we'll hear Brian Stan or whoever say. Oh, he's so creative. Oh, he's so unpredictable. Those things are true, but what does it really mean? What's really happening? And he has the self-belief to be completely unchained to throw these things. And when you have crazy people going all in on the pot, and you're a professional poker player, you're like, this is confusing. I thought he had a 7, but and because they behave in ways that you cannot predict. And that's what this guy does. Yeah, his kicks are spectacular. Yes, he strings them together in ways that are not A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. It's like X, 27, upside down triangle.
I love that.
Etc. And so that's just really confusing. And then he has the self-belief to do it, and the self-belief and the skill to, if and when it goes wrong, and there are moments when it does, dust himself off.
He just hasn't been made to pay, and that's one of my concerns, is that I thought BJ was going to make him pay. And I feel that Frankie's going to make him pay. And how will he respond? That's the issue. I think he'll respond real well. I think he's going to take damage when he takes it, whether that's in this fight or in other fights in the future. And it's not going to he's bulletproof, mentally pretty bulletproof. So what you do with a guy like that is what Frankie did to Cub, and then Cub you beat their bodies down. You can't break him mentally, or we don't know if you can't, but we know we can break him down physically. You get on top of him and you start smashing him. And then eventually there's a frustration there. Man, if we would just stand, remember when Johnny Hendricks fought Stephen Thompson, and after he was like, well, I kind of wish you'd stand in the pocket with me. Why?
Why would you do that? He's beating you up from the outside. And it's the same thing. You get to that point. If only we were out in the field, I'd be beating up Frankie, but instead he keeps putting me on my back and elbowing me in the face. That sucks. If you can make that happen, then this Frankie, takeover is more likely to happen.
Will Yair Rodriguez be able to take out his second former UFC lightweight champion when he takes on Frankie Edgar? All the action going down in Dallas, Texas for UFC 211.